scientists are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken them by surprise.
That sudden drop in temperature as half an hour ago, Mexican officials closed the border in the light of so many U.S. refugees.
We prepare to go live to Los Angeles.
Are you getting this on camera? What you see is happening now.
Look over there behind me! That's a tornado! Yes! A twister!
This is just massive.
Violent and dangerous current.
Our community have been devastated by a tsunami of water, a historic tsunami of water that came down the Blanco River very quickly in a very powerful way.
And in this small county, people have lost their lives, and many are missing.
Volcanic eruption in the Galapagos Islands could threaten some rare animal species. On Monday, the Wolf volcano roared back to life for the first time in 33 years.
It's on the ground.
Overnight twisters tormenting from Texas.
It's right here, big wedge.
To Ohio. This tornado caught on surveillance video, tearing through a shopping center, flinging debris in the air, and leaving behind a parking lot full of wreckage.
Volcanic eruption in the Galapagos Islands could threaten some rare animal species. On Monday, the Wolf volcano roared back to life for the first time in 33 years. Smoke and ash shot more than 9 kilometers into the air. This section of the islands is home to the world's only population of pink iguanas. So far, the lava is flowing away from their habitat, but that could change. The ecosystem on Ecuador's Galapagos Islands inspired, of course, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution.
Along the banks of the Blanco River in Hays County, Texas, a sad and solemn sight. Members of the military searching for people who are missing after last being seen swept into the river. The river flooding catastrophically after huge amounts of rain, and there is still a violent and dangerous current.
Our community have been devastated by a tsunami of water, a historic tsunami of water that came down the Blanco River very quickly in a very powerful way.
And in this small county, people have lost their lives, and many are missing. Among the missing, a mother and her 2 children, Laura McComb, her 6-year-old son Andrew, and 4-year-old daughter Layton. Her husband, the children's father, John, survived, but was seriously hurt and is in the hospital. Joe McComb is John's father.
Well, it's difficult for him right now. Obviously, he's heavily sedated in the hospital.
John was tossed in the river with his family.
We really don't know how long he was in that water, being tossed around and slammed up against trees and rocks and things.
John's wife actually called her sister when the house was uprooted and started floating on the river.
From what I understand, and just basically said, the house is floating. I just wanted to tell y'all, I love you. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just wanted you to know I love you, and I'm with my kids and my husband. And then that was the last of the phone call.
So far, no signs at all of the mother and children. About 70 homes have been destroyed in this county, some 1,400 houses damaged. This home, owned by a woman who says that in 40 years of coming here, she has never even had minor flooding.
Could you ever have imagined this much destruction from this river?
No, but I respect it now, I'll tell you that.
The fury of these waters tossed vehicles like they were toys. This was a Volkswagen Jetta.
Police and emergency officials say they are still hoping for miracles. They still consider this a search and rescue mission.
Now to that terrifying moment. Families on the beach in Fort Lauderdale enjoying the holiday weekend when a bounce house goes airborne. You can see it right there. Picked up by a waterspout. 3 young children inside, the whole thing coming unhinged. And tonight there are new questions. Should it have been there at all? ABC's Gio Benitez is on the scene.
Oh, bounce house! It's the video startling the nation. A bounce house right on Fort Lauderdale Beach with 3 children inside taken up into the air by a waterspout 30 feet wide. Watch, police first noticed the waterspout at 12:30 p.m. Monday on the water. Oh my God! Seconds later, that waterspout comes ashore. You can hear the laughter turn to horror. It was airborne for 17 seconds, slamming into a concrete basketball pole and a light pole, then landing in a parking lot. The kids inside falling out during the ordeal. All 3 injured, but okay. Tonight, the families sharing some of the pictures of the injuries, at least one family now retaining a lawyer. One of the little girls speaking to ABC station WPLG.
I was thinking I was about to die.
Bounce houses have gone flying before. This incident captured on camera last summer. Children were inside and injured too. An operators training organization telling ABC News Today these houses collect the wind, much like sails on a ship, and that force can become overwhelming. And now tonight, new questions about whether that bounce house should have been out here. There were strong winds even before that waterspout. The company says it has no comment, the city calling it all a freak act of nature.
Devastating images of destruction and heartbreaking stories of those lost and still missing after relentless severe weather cripples Texas and Oklahoma. Hundreds of homes washed away in Hays County, Texas, in floodwaters that have left some of America's largest cities, like Houston, underwater.
Define worse. Obviously, the worst thing that's happened is that we've had a loss of life here. We've got cars littered all over the city. And as the floodwaters go down, that's one of the things we're doing to make sure that no one was trapped in those vehicles.
President Obama spoke to Texas Governor Greg Abbott Tuesday, offering the support of the federal government.
Our thoughts and prayers are with the families and the communities that have been affected by some of these devastating, record-breaking floods.
Several communities dealing with loss, remembering the lives of those lost to rushing waters. Like homecoming queen and student council president Alyssa Ramirez, who was killed on her way home from prom. The car she was driving swept away by floodwaters.
She did the right things. You know, she called 911, she called her father, but it was just too much and too quick.
Laura McComb and her 2 young children still missing after the cabin where they were staying literally split in half. Her father-in-law telling CNN that rescue efforts have been challenging.
It's a major undertaking, and the volume of water that came down as a result of the flood, I mean, it just covered hundreds of thousands of acres, and seems to be an impossible task, but there are people that are dedicated to their mission. We remain eternally optimistic.
McComb's husband, Jonathan, was also in that cabin. He was rescued, but not before suffering a collapsed lung and broken sternum. With more rain on the way at the end of the week, the Texas governor worries that more lives could be lost.
Even though we have been to the point we are now, the challenges are not over yet. There's going to be more rain to come. This is a huge challenge going on across the entire state.
Dave Malkoff has been live in Midlothian for us this morning. And Dave, there's some brand new information about how that water might get out.
Yeah, there was evacuations earlier today because they thought this dam was going to break. They thought it was imminent. It was going over the top. They were spilling out some water underneath. It's an earthen dam. Now we know the dam is not going to break. The officials, the crews out here, the engineers, as you can see them on the Bobcat down there, they have gone over to the dam, taken a look at it, and they believe they have lessened the pressure on this. How did they do that? They took a pipe underneath the water that you see here. You can't see it because you're on the back side of the dam here on Pradera Lake. They have taken the water out of the lake from underneath and spilled it in a controlled spill. So they've taken the pressure down, they've taken the water level down significantly. So at this point, the water is no longer going over that part of the dam. So it's good news for the 25 residents who live around here, businesses as well. They evacuated some livestock as well, but right now they believe they have the situation under control here 25 miles southwest of Dallas. Sam?
Yeah, and Dave, I think what's even better too is eventually that water, because it's a part of an entire big watershed. That would eventually gone toward Joe Pool Lake, and now you've got many more homes and businesses in harm's way, don't you?
Yeah, Joe Pool Lake is about 15 miles north of here. So if you could imagine this amount of water pooling in a makeshift river all the way up there and taking out all the things that are in its way, that's a terrible situation. That's what they definitely didn't want to happen. From the chopper above, we could definitely see how the water was coming over the top. That's what breached the earthen part of the dam. It took some of the dirt away. You can actually see the divot right there. If we zoom in, you can see where the water came through. And this is an earthen dam. This is something they've been working on as a construction project for the past couple weeks here, but it gave way this morning. The water was coming off the top, Jim. It's a bad situation, but they actually got it under control. That's the good news.
Now to that string of deadly storms or tornado touching down in Ohio overnight, tearing through this shopping mall. As Houston recovers from that devastating flooding, authorities are still searching for missing people there. And ABC's Matt Gutman is in Houston for us this morning. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Robin. And also here in Houston, there are rescues happening. Just a couple of hours ago, I want you to see that car right behind me. It drove right in here. Rescuers had to pluck that man to safety, and it shows how dangerous this situation still is. Standing water and swift-moving water right through the heart of the fourth biggest city in America and across the country. It's not yet over.
It's on the ground.
Overnight twisters tormenting from Texas.
It's right here, Big Wedge.
To Ohio. This tornado caught on surveillance video, tearing through a shopping center, flinging debris in the air, and leaving behind a parking lot full of wreckage. Across the Lone Star State, whipping winds and hail forcing these tractor trailers off the road. In Dallas, lightning illuminating the night sky. At least 11 people still missing along the Blanco River, including the 3 families who were inside this home celebrating Memorial Day when the house split, sounding like fireworks.
The house hit a bridge and it took the top part of the house off. The house just basically splintered.
Jonathan McComb, the sole survivor so far, pulled himself out of the water at least 9 miles from the home. His wife and 2 children still missing.
I think recognizing with what's happening with the weather, we all know and we have accepted that they're gone.
The McComb's golden retriever, Maggie, found dangling in branches 3 days after the ordeal. At its peak, the river's devastating waters racing at a rate of 223,000 cubic feet per second. That's more than twice the volume of the waters at Niagara Falls. The river swallowing anything and everything in its path, including dozens of homes. At least 1,400 damaged. In Houston, where highways turned into canals, they're still assessing the destruction.
We have 1,000 properties that we visually inspected. We believe that there may be as many as 4,000 with significant damage.
In Houston, over 500 calls just for water rescues. We saw some of that chaos from the air.
Now that all the water has started to recede, you see the massive amount of mess left behind.
This heroic rescue caught on a cell phone.
I just didn't want to see the lady drown.
Stephen Shannon and 3 others jumping into the floodwaters to rescue Glenda Reynolds and her dog.
You saved me today. I couldn't swim and I couldn't get out of my car.
With so much of the city underwater, even once all this water recedes or begins to evaporate, this is what it leaves behind. We saw this from the air. This is what it looks like from the ground. This very smelly, nasty stuff. But cleanup here is going to take a very long time, Robin.
It certainly will, Matt. I want to ask you about those electronic monitoring systems that many of us have on our cell phones. Did they work?
It seems to have worked partially. Residents who live in those areas that were hard hit, they did get those messages and managed to get out in time, but there's some concern that tourists did not get those messages on the phones, and local officials here in Texas are looking into that today.
Very big hacking scandal to report this noon. Hackers have tapped into the IRS's online service and gained access to more than 100,000 taxpayer accounts. Among the compromised information, Social Security numbers, birth dates, and street addresses. But the IRS says its main computer system, the one that handles tax filings, was not affected. That online service, though, has been temporarily shut down.
Heavy rain started Tuesday in Leishan County of southwest China's Guizhou province. The province was hit by around 160 millimeters of rainfall per hour. That's almost 1/7 of the normal annual amount. The downpours damaged highways, disrupted traffic, and led to some being rescued. Local authorities dispatched traffic police officers to control the traffic and take residents to safety. Water and power supplies as well as communication networks resumed on Wednesday. On May the 19th, heavy rain hit Ninghua County of East China's Fujian province. The downpours there damaged 18 bridges and roads in 63 villages of 9 townships. Armed police officers and heavy machinery were sent to repair and clear the roads and bridges. Traffic resumed Tuesday afternoon. The local traffic department says they will continue their efforts to ensure the safety of local people. Rainstorms hit Lufeng City in South China's Guangdong province on Wednesday. Precipitation in some places exceeded 100 millimeters in 3 hours. School classes were suspended in the afternoon due to the downpours. The local meteorological department has issued a red alert for the storms and predicts yet more rainfall to hit the region. Hu Yinan, CCTV.
Back to the breaking news in this Bay Terraces neighborhood. As the sun comes up, you are looking live here. A leaking water line caused this neighborhood road to be shut down. Looks like police are on the scene. Paul, 10 News photojournalist Paul Andrick there live in our breaking news tracker. The street's still shut down. How about the water?
Yeah, the water looks like it's pretty well subsided as far as pumping out of the ground, but you can see there's still a sinkhole here. Water was actually actively pouring down there when we first arrived here on the breaking news tracker. That police car up there is on Saipan and Potomac, and so this is going to be just south of Potomac on Saipan. You can see the road is buckled, and what looks like it was a manhole cover and some other access covers there on the ground. Possibly some sort of utility vault under there, but definitely some sort of water main. The street is buckled all around here, and but fortunately that water is shut off now. But if you live in this neighborhood, you might have some trouble getting your cars out if you're right there. Someone actually tried to back out of their driveway earlier, but were stopped because they would have driven right into that hole.
Yeah, no way anybody in that neighborhood's driving on that street with a sinkhole and a risk of falling into it. in jeopardy right now. Paul, we'll talk to you in just a little bit. We have a crew on the ground headed this way as well.
Adam, and it is calm outside right now, but last night severe thunderstorms passed through western Mass.
The lightning lit up the sky in West Springfield around 8:30 last night. 22's made a time lapse to show the storms as they crossed over the city. There wasn't too much rain, and the storm did roll through fairly quickly.
In Westfield, the wind whipped everything around. In the peak of the storm, they just had a slight drizzle, but in Hampshire County, they dealt with downpours and water built up quickly on Main Street in Northampton.
Soaring temperatures have gripped parts of southern and northern India. The hottest place in the country, Allahabad, in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, recorded a high of 47.7 degrees Celsius. The capital, Delhi, recorded a high of 43.5 degrees Celsius. Most of the deaths have been of construction workers, the elderly, or the homeless in the southern states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued a red warning to affected regions, advising people to stay indoors. The heat wave conditions are likely to continue over the coming days.
This morning, fear that up to 22 Air Force personnel may have been exposed to anthrax at an airbase in South Korea. An investigation now underway as officials at Osan Air Base say an Army lab in Utah inadvertently shipped live anthrax samples to them and facilities in 9 states over the past few days. 22 people now being monitored in South Korea join 4 workers in the U.S. who have received preventative post-exposure treatment. A lab in Maryland was the first to report receiving the live bacteria last Friday after handling the samples. The question now, how could this have happened?
It's a great question, and that's exactly why we brought in the Center for Disease Control and their investigators.
The Centers for Disease Control now investigating as officials reveal the samples were shipped under less rigorous conditions since it was believed the bacteria was dead. NBC News reporting FedEx transported the samples. FedEx tells CNN they're working with officials to gather information.
No known risk to the general public, and there's no suspected or confirmed cases of anthrax infection.
Talk about a close call in the skies. It's now under investigation after this Air France passenger jet had a near miss with a volcano earlier this month. You heard me, an active volcano. It was during a short flight from Equatorial Guinea to Cameroon in Africa. Pilots steered off their normal route to avoid thunderstorms, but as they approached their destination, the city of Douala, they had a much too close for comfort encounter with Mount Cameroon, an active volcano. The pull-up alarm began to sound, and the pilots ascended just in the nick of time. CNN safety analyst and former FAA safety inspector David Soucy is with me. David Soucy, I mean, I've never heard of anything like this before. Perhaps you have with regard to an active volcano. I mean, do we know how close this plane got?
Well, it went down to 9,000 feet, and for the ground proximity warning to come out. Now, remember though that the aircraft ground proximity warning points forward, so it sees it as it's coming. It's not like it's looking straight down, so it sees the possibility of intersecting with the mountain. Intersecting, what a term to use. But nonetheless, the warning system worked. The pilot responded the way he did. The question here is, why was he there? Was he going under the clouds? What exactly caused this to happen? And that's what's going to take some investigating.